Hello, this is Jan from the Fuzzy Duckling, bringing you the 5th video in our series, Learning How to Draw. Now, in our last session, we learned how to draw several different snowflakes out of straight lines. In this video, we are going to do a project that uses those snowflakes and makes this neat picture. Now, to do this, you will need a pencil, an eraser, a pen, and if you can find one that says permanent on it, or this one says dry safe, that's better yet. And then you can either use some markers or some colored pencils to color it in. So, let's begin and let me show you how to make this picture. Let me move this over here and get a good piece of paper. Are you ready to draw with me? Have you got your paper and your pencil all ready? Because you could do this right along with me. So the first thing I'm going to do is put in my biggest snowflakes and mark where they belong. And I notice in the one we're copying, there is a great big snowflake right up here in the corner. So I'm going to put that in right up there. Now, you don't have to do these the same size as I do. You don't have to do the same colors I use. You can do the different snowflakes. Maybe you found some really neat snowflakes that you figured out how to draw all on your own. This is your picture, so you do it the way you want to. Now, the snowflake I had in our picture that we're copying was the one where we made that middle line a lot longer than the others. And it made it a taller snowflake. And then we did our V's like this, and we had 3, if you remember, on this line, and 3 on this line. And then we did dots on the end. Now we're going to go ahead and put all of the pencil lines in before we ink or before we color in. This may actually take you a time or two. You might not get this done in one setting. And then we put 1 V here on these. And later we'll come in and put a color on this. And we had a nice big circle here, or a big old dot here in the middle. And then we came out with lines. Do you remember now how we made all those snowflakes and how easy they were? The more you do this, the easier it gets. There we go. There's our first big snowflake. Now, I made that a little long, so we'll erase it. And then in my picture here, I thought it would be neat to have a snowflake that went over the edge. So if you're going to do that, it might be a good idea to have a piece of paper underneath that you can draw a little bit on. And so I'm going to do this. This was just a very simple snowflake we had here. But part of this is going to go over the edge. See right there over onto my other paper. And that's okay, because it's kind of neat when they go over the edge like that. Okay, and then we had a dot on the end of each one. And you probably don't even see that dot with the V like this. And the center circle. See, we've got 2 of our snowflakes in already. And then we had another big snowflake right about here. And I'm going to start this one out at an angle. Like that. Make these the same length as well as we can tell what we're doing. We don't want to have to worry about doing a lot of measuring because we want to have fun with this. Okay, we had our dots on the end of each line. See how quickly this is coming together? It is quick, but if you do a good job on it, it will probably take you an hour or so to actually finish this whole picture. Okay, what we did on this is we did 3 V's up and down each one of those. This makes such a neat looking snowflake to do this. Now remember, I challenged you to see if you can make a dozen more different kinds of snowflakes. So feel free to use the ones you made up in this picture. That will make it more yours than ever. Okay. And right here in the middle, we had our big dot with our little radiating lines that came out from the center. There we go. 3 of them done. Now, right about here, we had a nice, big, fancy snowflake, almost like this one, but it was bigger yet. So let's see if we can get this one drawn in. A nice, big snowflake. How about that? Does that look like a nice, big snowflake? There we go. There's our good base for it. All right, just like the others. Dots at the ends of our lines. Let me renew your memory here real quick at what we're doing. Remember this picture? This is the one we're going to work out right now. This was this one. Here's this one, although I did make this a bit littler, didn't I? And there was this one. But you know, it doesn't have to be exactly the same. And I doubt if you'll make yours exactly the same either. This is your picture of snowflakes, and you can do it however you want to. I remember a painter by Bob Ross used to say, this is your happy little tree in your happy little land. And I'll say, this is your happy little snowflakes in your happy little sky. You make them the way you want to. Now, up and down here, we're going to make 4 V's. And then we're going to go around and put dots on each end of these little V lines. Okay, we're going to come to the middle now, and we make our little radiating lines out from the center. There we go. Now we have our big center one. Now, let's go down and draw this big one that's going to be yellow, right about down here. These look complicated, but if you remember, these are so easy. So here we go. Let's make this a little bit of an angle again. There we go with our crossed lines. There we go. Now I think I need to make some of these a little longer. There. Pretty close. Now if you remember, we came along and marked the center of these with a very light line. So now we're going to start here at the tip and draw to that dot. You remember that? It's so easy, but it makes the neatest design for your snowflakes. There we go. All right, now we're going to come along and then we extend each of these lines just a little bit. And then put a dot at the end of each one of those little lines that you drew out. Now, put a little V here. The bottom of the V will touch the top of that point. It's like little arms almost on a stick figure that comes up around the little head, isn't it? Okay, now let's make our lines along this little spot where we made the, we drew a line here from the point to the dot. We're going to fill it in with some little straight lines. 1, 2, 3, 4. I did 5 on that one. You can do however many you like. I think on the one that I'm copying, I just did 3 or 4. It just depends on the size and length of the lines you made and kind of what mood you're in. Now, I'm finding my mechanical pencil is getting a little, I think, low on lead. So I'm going to switch over to this pencil. See all these little lines we're making? Isn't that easy? But the more you put on here, the neater your snowflake looks. I'm sure you can think of some other things to do too. Okay, now we need to go to our center. Let's make our center dot. And then our radiating lines. And let's put a dot at the end of each one of those lines. Doesn't that make it look neat? I love that. There we go. So now we have our yellow one ready to work on in a little bit. Let's see what we have on here now. Let's make this one. Now this one in here is almost like that one that had the long center line. I think we can do that okay, don't you? Let's see, let's put that about here. I'm going to make my long center line. There we go. So I need to make this just a bit shorter. And here's my crossed lines. Here we go. All right, if you remember, we had a dot on the end of each one of these. Then we had 3 V's on our top line and 3 V's on our bottom line. And then we put 1 V on each of these. And then we made a nice big center dot. Alrighty. Okay, let's see what we need to do next. Let's do this. I like to call these kind of like pinwheel snowflakes. This one's almost like this one, and it starts out exactly the same. Let's see if we can put that one in about here. Okay, so here we go. Let's start our pinwheel. If you notice, these all start exactly the same, which makes it really easy. We could call it, they all start out with a base snowflake. Now, since we're doing a pinwheel on this one, I did this one a little small because I don't have quite as much room left on this piece of paper as the one I'm copying from. I think I made some of my snowflakes bigger today. All right, so now we're going to make our pinwheel shape. I love these pinwheels. I think it's so neat how those come out. And they look like they're so hard to do, and they're not, are they? There we go. Now on this pinwheel, we did a dot on the end of each of these lines here. It's nice to have just little differences between some of them if you can. Excuse me. And then we did a V on top of the dot. Inside, we did our dot, our radiating arms, or I guess we'd call them lines. Here we go with those. And then in here, we did an extra dot all the way around. How you doing? Are you keeping up with all this? You know, the best way to do it is to show a little bit of the video, see what you want to do, pause the video, and then do it. Then you can, when you get it done, then you run a little more video, and then pause it, and then go do it. Now, we want to put some V's along these lines. The one I'm copying from had 3 V's along here. But since I made a smaller snowflake, we're going to only do 2 V's along here. You notice we're almost getting our piece of paper filled up already. There we go. All right, where do we stand? What do we need to do now? I can see we need to do this great big one up here in the top corner. So let's go do that one. Now this was a very simple one. And you know, I may just have to make that one a little fancier. We can do something fancier than just that simple one. Let's see what we can do here. It's a pretty good size snowflake, so we'll do this. Okay, let's do our dots on the end. And then instead of 1 V here at the bottom of these dots, let's do 2. We'll make this a little fancier than what we had in our other picture. And you can do 3 or 4 if you want to. Again, this is your snowflake picture. There we go. And then we'll put in our center dot. And I think I'll make my little radiating lines again. There we go. All right, so let's see where we are. I think we only have one more main snowflake, and I mean by main, these great big colored ones, is we have another pinwheel one up here at the top. So let's do that one next. Whoops, dropping things here. I guess we need to put it right about here. I think I kind of moved this one over too far, but that's all right. We'll just, you know, I think we'll change things around a little bit since I moved this one over too far. Let's do our other pinwheel one right here. You know, we don't have to make them both the same, do we? Let's do that right here. There we go. Now, when you're drawing these, draw lightly. Don't push down real hard because you might want to get rid of some of these lines later, and they can be hard to erase if you press down real hard. It's either hard to get rid of the lines or it makes like scratches in your paper sometimes. Okay, let's make the pinwheel part here. I bet you're getting real good at this by now. There we go. And let's see how we made that one. We made that one where we made the lines just a little bit longer and put a dot on top. Oh, let's do that. And then what did we do? We put the V here. Yes, that's what we did. We did our little V. These always remind me of little stick men for some reason. Little stick men riding on my snowflake. Here we go. And then we came along and we put lines like this. It almost looks like a comb, doesn't it? Make little combs on the edges of our snowflakes. What do you think we did to the middle? I bet you can tell right off what we did to the middle. We put our dot in, and we put our radiating lines in. And put dots at the ends of those lines. There we go. Now we have our main snowflakes in. Okay, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Let's see if we have as many. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, I missed one. What one did I miss? We got that one there, that one, that one. Oh, I missed this one. It's one I ran off the edge before. Let's put that one up here. Okay? It was a pretty pink one. We'll see if we can remember. Now, this is going to run over my page. This will be another one where we're going to draw off. Oops. I'm going to go ahead and make my line that way so I can kind of keep track of where it was. And this was a pretty pink one. Okay, how we made that one. There we go. And that one had dots at the end. And 3 V's. Now, to try to figure out where these V's would be on the missing part, you kind of maybe even need to draw them in on those spots off of your paper. It's a little tricky, but it helps you know where they should be. There we go. There we go. And then we have our radiating lines. Okay. Now, if you've noticed on this picture, we have several smaller ones that are drawn in ink to fill this in. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of these. We have some smaller ones yet that aren't full snowflakes. 6, is that right? Yes, 6 of them. So do you think we can get those drawn in? Okay, we're just going to put them where we have the larger spaces. Since I arranged this one a little different, we should have room for one right here. And these are the nice, simple ones, and we're making them a little smaller. Like that. And these are going to be inked in later, which we'll have to talk about inking, won't we? Okay. Okay, I've got my little medium-sized snowflakes in. Now, to fill in the rest of this, you notice that we have some really simplified snowflakes here. See these? It's just the lines with a dot in the middle. There's no V's or anything fancy, but they're scattered here between the others just to fill it in. So we're going to add some of those in these little empty spots like this. See how quick and easy those are to make? These are like baby snowflakes. Okay, how you coming? You know, we're about done with the first part of our picture. There we go. Put one up here. Now, if you don't plan on coloring, you're almost done. But I think it's fun to go ahead and color these in and make them really pretty. So how are we doing? Do you see a spot where I need to do some more? Let's do one down here. Okay, very neat. I really like my picture. Do you like yours? Now there's one more thing we need to add in here. We have just added plain little dots all the way through it. Now that was done with pen, but we're going to mark where that goes with our pencil. Anywhere there's a very big spot, we're going to stick just a plain dot. All the way sprinkled off on your picture. Isn't that neat? It even looks neat before we color it in, if I do say so. It looks like Christmas, doesn't it? There we go. Now we've got our pencil part pretty much done, I think. Now, the next thing that we need to do will be to what we call ink them. We're going to take our ink pen and we're going to draw over the lines of some of these. Now, these where I'm going to be drawing over with my colored Sharpie. And if it's, say, I like to do a pink one in it, the light colored sometimes, I'm not going to ink those because I don't want a pin line showing through. But I am going to ink my pinwheels there, and I'm going to ink these little ones that we just made. So I'm going to start that, and then I will probably stop my video and finish that since this is going to take a while. But this is how I plan on inking. You get a pen, and it's best if it's a permanent pen that won't smear. If you want to add a marker or watercolor or anything, you don't want these to smear. But you're going to take that pen and just carefully draw over your pencil lines. Now, eventually, you may get so good at these snowflakes that you won't even want to bother doing the pencil first. But I kind of like doing pencil first because I can see how I want everything laid out. Those pencil lines are kind of placeholders for what we want to do with our ink. So just carefully go over. Now, just like there may be times when you won't do exactly what that pencil line did. And in that case, later on, after your ink has had some time to dry, and you need to give it probably 10 minutes or so, you can take your eraser and go over this and get rid of your pencil lines. Now I'm going to pause my video for a few minutes, and I'm going to finish inking in a bunch of these, and then I'll show you what it looks like afterwards. Okay, I'm back. I have done some inking on this picture. I have inked these little pinwheel snowflakes and these little medium-sized ones. Be sure that you can see this. Okay. The next thing I want to do is color in some of these that are like this. I didn't ink these because I want to do them, some pink, some a lighter blue, and I don't want ink lines to show through. So now when you do this any color you want, but I'm going to try to follow what I did in the picture we're copying. So let's start with this one up here in the right hand corner. I did that a light kind of purple. And I see something we missed over here. We didn't ink our little black lines. Well, we'll come back to that later. Okay, now I'm using a Sharpie marker. I really like these, but you can use any kind you want. It's just nice if they have a decent tip on it, not one of those wide ones that looks like, well, you know, has a wide tip. You want something that comes to a point. And then we just want to go over our lines, just like we did when we inked with our pen. But now we're getting a purple snowflake. Okay, now there's several of those on here. We want to do this one pink, and this one blue, and this one a kind of a violet color, and this one a maroon color. So we're going to just speed right through these so you don't have to wait so long to see what the next step is. So we're just going to go right over here and start putting these in. I think we have all of those colored in. Now there's something I forgot a little bit earlier while I was inking, is that all these little dots need to be inked in. So let's get those in next. Now there's a little hint when you're working with ink. If you've noticed, I started filling and working this way. That's so that I'm not passing over this and smearing the ink, because right after it's put down, it'll smear real easily. Now, of course, if you're left-handed, you'll want to start over here and work this direction. But that helps stop a lot of smears that you might get. Oh, and I see a little snowflake over here that I missed earlier. Let's get that inked. Now, if you have trouble following your lines and your pencil or your pen wants to stray off of your pencil line, be sure you have something nice and smooth underneath. If you have something that's kind of bumpy, and this is a little bit bumpy, it has a tendency to send your pen off on another way rather than where you want it to go. Okay, I actually think we're ready to finish up here and color our pinwheels in. So I'm going to start, no, let's follow our rule. I need to start over here and work this way. So we're going to do this one first, which was a pretty maroon. Now, depending on what markers you have or colored pencils you have, you color these any color you want. But if you're using a marker, no matter how good the pen is, whether it says it's permanent or not, sometimes they have a tendency to smear when you add wet marker. So as closely as possible, I like to go around some of the darker marks and not always go over them. I know it takes a little more time to do that, but you may save yourself some smearing depending on what pen you used and what markers you're using. Like this line here, I kind of like to go around it if I can. Go around that circle. So we're going to finish coloring in these pinwheels real quick. And before we leave, I'm going to show you some things you can do with this beautiful picture that you've made. I think we're about finished here. There we go. And I have found that the yellow pen is much more prone to smearing than almost any of the others. I guess since it's such a light color. Now, you could go ahead and add more things to this. It would be very interesting if you wanted to put a chalk background on here or a watercolor wash. I would just be careful and check for smearing if I was going to do the watercolor. And here's something else that's kind of fun to do if you have any of these on hand. Let me get some for you. How about these little jewels? It looks really neat to pop these in the center of your snowflakes. Isn't that neat? I just love this idea. Look at that. And you just glue those on, and that is so cute. You could even put a few strays just around in different places. You could use sequins to do that. You could use buttons. Oh, there's just all kinds of things you could do to add to that. Now, you may be wondering what to do with this. Is there something you can do with this now that you're done? And I better stop here and tell you there's one more thing that needs to be done, but it needs to dry. When you're sure all your markers and inks are dried, it's a good idea to come in and be sure all the pencil marks that you don't want to show have been erased. But again, I say if you do that too soon, you can smear your ink. And then that is not a very pretty thing to have on your picture. So be sure you wait a few minutes before you do that. Okay, there's some other things. Obviously, you could use this as a picture and hang it on your wall. Or frame it. That would be really neat. Or you could put it in your art book, your journal book. People who keep junk journals might like to use this as a background page and then put things on top of it. How about folding it in half and making a card out of it? Yes, these bled through, but that's okay. Just cut you some paper and put in here and then write your little note on it. There's one other thing I think is really neat to do with these, and to use these as scrapbook pages. Isn't it neat? I mean, we buy beautiful scrapbook papers today, and they're all just so scrumptious, and it seems like we forget that we don't have to buy every scrapbook page that's in our book. We can make some, and wouldn't it be neat if you found your great-great-grandmother's scrapbook, and not only had she written in it, she had actually done artwork in it. So here's a page I made showing a sample scrapbook page made out of snowflakes. Look at this. I just love this. Here's a spot to journal to say what year and the name and all these things. And this will slip into my scrapbook. I'm not sure where the best way for you to see that is. Now this is a cute little thing I just added to it, but it doesn't have to be there. So for you scrapbookers, this would be a great idea on your Christmas pictures and your winter pictures. Make your own snowflake backgrounds. All right, I think that's about it for this video. Our next video, we're going to be doing another project. And that project is going to be a straight line abstract drawing. So again, we'll be using our pencils and pens and markers and be drawing a neat picture to either hang on your wall or to use in your scrapbook. So until then, bye-bye.